É pau, é pedra, é o fim do caminho. É resto de toco, é pouco sozinho. É caco de vidro.
Need seats to a game? Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat, get a Vivid seat. The Dan Levitard Show is brought to you by Certified Financial Planner Professionals. Find yours at letsmakeaplan.org.
I do not know what the Giants are doing. I don't feel like anyone knows what the Giants are doing, but we've been making fun of Giants management since Gettleman and Sherman got in there and lectured us about
Pat Shermer,
and lectured us about what it is to be a New York football Giant. And you can see that they weren't going to have a lot of tolerance for Odell Beckham, even though the original sound from Gettleman, like, this is funny to look back on, okay? This is January, Stugotz. It's January when he's saying this. And they had just they just gave him an extension not very long ago. So this is the general manager of the Giants, not but a couple of, a January ago.
Are you committed to him being here in 2019? You open to trade ideas?
We didn't sign him to trade him, if that's what you're asking me.
So he'll be here.
You heard what I said.
So now he was asked in February again. He was also asked in February, and this is what the general manager of the Giants, New York Football Giants, had to say.
I'll say this. It's a repeat of what I said at my postseason presser. We didn't sign Odell to trade him, okay? So I know that's all over the place. So understand that, and that's all I need to say about that.
And he also had that quote that we enjoyed playing again and again, where he was just saying, look, the offers I'm getting, I'm not going to trade them for the things you're offering me.
People call you and they want the second pick of the draft for, a bag of donuts, a hot pretzel, and a hot dog. It's like, get away, leave me alone. I ain't got time to screw around.
So the Browns got him for that, right? A pretzel, a hot dog, and a safety.
Yeah, pretty much. And the Giants paid Odell Beckham Jr. $21+ million.
I cannot believe.
They think Odell Beckham's the idiot.
Yeah. I cannot believe the Cleveland Browns get past this draft and they're done paying for Odell Beckham. Hell, even the Giants are still going to be paying for Odell Beckham. I don't understand trading somebody when you're going to have all this dead money, especially someone in their prime.
Stan, I've been told that during the break, though, you are laughing at Mike Ryan. Mike Ryan, you've enraged him because he's yelling and screaming about Stan's a hater. You've got the Browns winning 7 games next year, right?
Yeah, I think they'll be about the same. Look, neither Stugotz can be happy, Mike Ryan can be happy. Neither one of those teams is going to the playoffs.
What? The playoffs?
The
Browns. I think the Browns were getting a lot of bets on the Super Bowl yesterday.
Okay, listen. So they're not going to go past New England. They're not going past Baltimore. They're not going past the Steelers, and they're not going past the Texans.
Baltimore.
So
Stan, the Steelers got a lot worse.
Baltimore.
They don't have Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, because the difference
they
between
didn't have Le'Veon Bell last year.
I'm worried about the Raiders.
Baltimore. I'm not worried about Baltimore. You saw how close that game was at the end of the season with Baker Mayfield going on the road, putting up numbers against a defense that hadn't had those numbers put up against them. Baker Mayfield in his second full season. Yeah, you have them winning the same amount of games. You have them winning the same amount of games. You realize Hugh Jackson was a coach.
NFL is close. He lost.
Okay, all right. We're going to go that way. That defense just lost a ton of players. Get out of here. They're the favorites in the division. Get out of here, you hater. You don't like the city. You never have. You got some sort of agenda against Baker Mayfield.
Can you let the co-host talk, please, without your homerism?
He won't admit that he's got the goods. He never admits.
He will admit it when the goods have been gotten.
Yeah, let him play in a playoff game first, okay? Then let's talk about the goods, all right?
That game in Baltimore was essentially a playoff level intensity.
He lost. I mean, is your argument the best argument you have for him a loss?
No, the best argument that I have for him is he set the rookie passing touchdown record, even though he didn't even play the first 2.5 games of the season, and he was handcuffed by the worst head coach in NFL history, and now he's been liberated by Freddie Kitchens, who will be known as Vince Lombardi henceforth.
Vince Lombardi?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen. What they should do is just make sure they stay ahead of the Cincinnati Bengals and don't finish last in that division.
I think you're right. I think you're right about the Jets. You're completely wrong about the Browns. Like, even with Le'Veon Bell, I have no faith the Jets are better than the Patriots.
They're 14. The Cleveland Browns are 14-1 to win the Super Bowl. Those are tied for the third best odds that you can get right now.
I do think you're saying something most people aren't saying today. They've got a lot of young talent. They've got Richardson's their third best defensive lineman, and the talent is just really young. So what they're doing is building a team for the next 5 years. I think a lot of people like their plan, and Dorsey, their general manager, is not afraid. They've added Kareem Hunt cheap as well.
Do not underestimate the Browns' ability to screw all of it up.
It's a fair point.
There we agree.
But Mike, there you go, though. It is a fair point. He is entitled to not believe in the Browns until after they've actually done something other than being competent.
Look, the Browns can't have nice things. This ends in a preseason midfield freak collision between Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr., in which they're both out for the entire season. I understand where this goes, but today of all days, you cannot do this, especially when it's just lacking sense. They're not going to remain flat. This is an upward trajectory, Stan Van Gundy.
Well, and what they've added is on the offensive side, you still haven't accounted for the fact that they're awful defensively.
Awful.
Their numbers improved consistently, and now they have the best defensive line in the NFL. Richardson, Ogunjobi, Myles Garrett, Pro Bowler Olivier Vernon. These are young players.
Wait a minute. So that's better than LA's defensive line?
Yeah, especially when you factor the fact that they don't have Ndamukong Suh anymore.
Who was going to leave? That's right.
Wait till they sign LeBron at tight end.
Oh.
Will that change it for you, Stan?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Then I would have them at 8-8.
Dan is fired up.
It is.
Let's see if he can urinate on the Jet signing next. Just get him all over the place, urinating on the enthusiasms of everyone in sports.
I mean, you don't know what you've just walked into. Cleveland Browns fans right now, they're collecting everybody that's saying the things that you're saying. And you're going to hear it next season, Stan.
Mike was wondering in the local hour if he was being annoying about this.
Yeah, he's
no, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
It's hard to listen to.
You will never work in Cleveland, ever. Okay?
Yep.
Never.
Wow. Promise me that, please.
Oh, that's so great. I was going to say scratch the Cavs off your list, but you've already done so.
The Cavs.
Yeah. As long as I have breath in my lungs, you will never work in Cleveland.
That's a promise you better be prepared to keep.
Don't go to your next major event looking like a bum. Get yourself a suit from the Black Tux. Tell them, Stugotz.
Yep, wedding season is upon us. You're going to be doing it big and going out to all your buddies' weddings. That's where the blacktux.com comes in. The Black Tux is your one-stop shop for modern fitting suits and tuxedos at half the price of what even the budget rental companies cost. They even offer free home try-on. Stand out at your next event for the right reasons. With the Black Tux, they get $20 off your purchase. Simple. Visit theblacktux.com. You enter code Dan. That's theblacktux.com, code Dan, for $20 off your purchase. The Black Tux, premium rental suits and tuxedos delivered.
One of the things that happens with this show is, for some reason, if you invest in the show, you end up sometimes investing in the sports enthusiasms of the people on the show. So when Le'Veon Bell ends up with the Jets and when Odell Beckham ends up with the Browns, it feels like the audience is excited about Mike Ryan and Stugotz and what they've gotten. And so what happened in the last few segments is Mike Ryan ruined all that, and now everyone's rooting against the Browns.
Dale, you are listening to the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
How does he know? Like, did Donald Glover go to Harvard? Is that a... I mean, how is Pablo running in these circles? I'm a little jealous, I got to be honest.
I'm not sure you would know Donald Glover if he just walked into that studio.
No, but that's perfect. No, that's perfect.
Lethal Weapon.
He clearly starred opposite Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon franchise.
Pretty cool that he's doing music now. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Powered Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. From noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, you can check out live coverage of Kyler Murray's Pro Day on SportsCenter on ESPN2. I am so there. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Jazz have permanently banned the fan who had a heated exchange with Russell Westbrook on Monday. Westbrook was fined $25,000 by the NBA for, quote, directing profanity and threatening language to a fan. James Dolan said that the fan who confronted him, telling him to sell the team, was a, quote, ambush, and that the fan planned to sell the video to TMZ. And finally, a man is behind bars at the Allegheny County Jail after accusations that he choked another man for singing Christmas songs. According to the criminal complaint, the victim told troopers that he was driving his minivan when his passenger reached around his seat, while he was driving and began choking him. The victim told troopers he was singing Christmas songs and his attacker tried to choke him to make him stop singing. Here's the Select Quote term life insurance difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, one rate, but Select Quote shops and could get you up to 10 options from highly rated life insurers for a free personalized quote. Do what I did. Call 800-780-1010 or go to SelectQuote.com. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Happy 69th birthday.
Nice.
To William H. Macy.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
So, Stan, you got to help me with a couple of things here because those James Dolan, Russell Westbrook stories, what are your thoughts on both of those stories?
Well, I thought they were really different. Like James Dolan, I just didn't get even what James Dolan objected to. Of course, nobody wants to be told that you think you're doing a bad job and sell the team, but it seemed, pretty mild for him to react to and talk about the guy never being able to come back. And now to say you were ambushed, I mean, to me, it all seems a little ridiculous, but most of what James Dolan does seems ridiculous to me. But the Russell Westbrook thing, I was impressed with the way the Jazz reacted to that and did so quickly. That's not what their organization's all about. They are not going to let players be verbally abused by fans. And they took action and banned the guy. And that kind of thing has to happen because the fact that you buy a ticket does not entitle you to be verbally abusive toward participants in the game. So I thought the Jazz did a great job with that.
Stan, just back to Dolan for a second. I find it interesting, and I'm wondering, do you think players kind of look into this? So you have a big free agency period coming up here in July, and a lot of rumors about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Like, are players going to look at James Dolan and how he acts towards former players like Charles Oakley and to fans and say, hey, I don't want to go play for that guy?
No, I don't really think so. I think they'll look at the money and their chances to win. That'll be the only two things that I think will really matter to guys. Though the way James Dolan seems to act around people, it might help them in their recruiting pitch if they don't include him in the meetings.
I want to understand you as a coach, as a person who takes the temperature on culture, locker room, atmosphere. I need some help from you because it seems to me that Mike Ryan and Stugotz are very excited today about their free agent acquisitions for their team. Mike even more than Stugotz, but I feel like everyone else in the room is not happy for Mike Ryan. I want to understand a little better what's happening here because I do sense the happiness has not dissipated yet on behalf of Stugotz, but he also hasn't talked too much in terms of throwing some of that unearned arrogance in your face that turns off people.
Listen, I'm still concerned. What Mike knows, and the reason he's so cocky and arrogant, Mike, stay right there, because we have had precious few days like this, both of us, so stay right where you are. You're not annoying me, by the way. I totally get it. Mike knows he has a quarterback. I still don't know. That's the big difference. Mike knows he has a great quarterback. I have no idea if I have any sort of quarterback, and that's the big difference.
And Chris and I follow the Dolphins, and absolutely nothing has happened.
Well, because their new coach is the Patriots guy who's going to sit out the earliest parts of free agency because everyone loses their mind this time of year.
Sad fans don't like happy fans. And I'm sad. I want everyone else to be sad.
Is that what's happening with you, Billy?
No, I mean, it's just a body of work thing. I've been hearing about Johnny Manziel. I've been hearing it for years. It's just enough already. Just enough.
I totally agree with that. Totally. I mean, just, the Browns are always looking for hope somewhere. So let's...
Also, if you want to know why we're a little annoyed at Mike, check out his Instagram story last night when he found out the news. All right? This is earned.
Room full of haters. Player haters.
As soon as I saw both moves, I said, man, tomorrow's going to suck. Tomorrow's going to be such a bad day.
Mike, I'll tell you, the sunglasses,
expectations.
Yeah, the sunglasses you're wearing are not helping your case at all, just so you know. I mean, just so you know, but stay right where you are.
Just stay there. From the sidelines. Keep player hating from the sidelines.
Sidelines? We're not even in the stadium.
Yeah.
Good point.
You're ahead of the Bills, though.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
We're sure about their quarterback situation, honestly.
Is anyone else going to find it fairly breathtaking that Antonio Brown got such a better deal than Le'Veon Bell?
He's older.
Listen to me. You have arrived at a special place in negotiating hell when the Jets do the right thing and holding firm and getting you at a discount.
I mean, this Mike Mayock getting it done.
He plays at a position that affects win probability more, if you want to get analytical about it.
Yes. Wide receiver is a more important position now than running back.
Especially when you acquire a wide receiver of an Antonio Brown or, say, an Odell Beckham Jr. These are unicorns. The running back position is largely interchangeable. You saw that with Pittsburgh, even though he's not as dynamic as Le'Veon Bell. They got great production from James Conner. This is a win probability thing, and that's why you guarantee the money. They're also less likely to get hurt. Even though they can still get hurt, it's less likely.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I also think it seems to me, and I'm not the NFL expert even that you guys are, but it seems to me the running back position is really the offensive line as much as anything. I mean, now there's some guys when they get out and get some space that are better than others, but primarily when you're looking at 1,000-yard rushers and things, it's a product of who you're putting on the offensive line, and the running backs are actually interchangeable.
Well, I mean, the Jets have a really good offensive line, so I'm excited about that. Le'Veon Bell, Stan, is a bit different. I understand what you're saying about the running back position. Now I'm going to start getting annoying here. But I understand what you're saying. But I think combined receiving yards and rushing yards, Le'Veon Bell has eclipsed 1,800 total yards 3 times, which is second most in NFL history. Like, this is a really special player.
We'll see. I mean, you're right. I mean, there are guys, obviously, that are special, but that position has been devalued over time in the league, because it's become such a passing league now. It's a quarterback wide receiver league.
He had 85 catches.
Ponte los patines. Time for some ads.
Guillermo, put on the poll. Should Stugotz work in Jets PR? Like, he's never been so informed. Did you hear that?
Very excited.
Second most ever.
I'm certain I got it
catches.
wrong. Yeah. I'm certain there's something wrong there. I don't know.
Guys, you remember all the times last season where Odell Beckham Jr. was frustrated because a ball sailed over his head or behind him? It's not going to happen anymore. The guy's always open. This is incredible.
Well, Eli Manning when you look at the numbers, Baker Mayfield takes a lot more chances down the field than Eli Manning.
But it changes a lot, right? Because when Jarvis Landry's your number 2, then you have a good team. Like, you have a good offense.
When Odell Beckham's your number 1, you've got an offense that can score if your quarterback's not, like, totally washed.
Well, I think the Giants led the NFL in scoring last year. Isn't that crazy?
That can't be right.
I think it's right.
That simply cannot be right.
I'm informed, Dan. Remember.
You think the New York Giants were picking second in the draft had a better offense
over the Chiefs and the Rams? You think
than the Saints, Chiefs, and Rams?
Eli Manning's Giants.
They had 400 and no, I was wrong probably. What did Mort say this morning? I have no retention.
So really, you're just stealing Mort stuff poorly?
I think maybe it was the last 7 games.
They were the highest scoring team in New York last year.
Oh.
Stugotz, honestly.
Dan, they're right near the top in all the important offensive categories last year.
They're not. They're the Giants, and they were terrible.
They were 16th in points per game.
What are you talking about?
Check out total yards. I mean,
for the love of God.
Keep searching. You'll find it, Mike.
Just tell the people.
Or text Mort.
Just tell the people. Oh, sure.
I've been texting Mort. I texted Mort last night. It's lit.
17th total yards.
Okay. Keep digging.
Butcher Box, Stugotz.
If you haven't tried the delicious, high-quality meat from Butcher Box, you're going to be blown away. You really are. And thank you to all the people in our audience because, listen, this is all we ask as a show. Support the people that support us. And I've asked you the last couple of days with a big push here to support Butcher Box because they love the show and they need your help. So support the people that support us. Butcher Box brings you meat the way it's meant to be so you can get all the benefits you're supposed to get, unbelievable flavor, and great nutrition. They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely, from grass-fed beef to free-range organic chicken to wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska. Butcher Box has over 20 different cuts of meat to choose from with customizable boxes and a variety of other options to choose from. And Butcher Box comes at an affordable price. With free shipping, you can get a month's worth of the best tasting meat from Butcher Box for less than $6 a meal. How about that? Butcher Box is offering our listeners free ground beef for the life of your subscription and $20 off your first box when you sign up at butcherbox.com/Dan. Don't miss out on this special offer at butcherbox.com/Dan. butcherbox.com/Dan.
See, very intrigued by the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
On the Dan Le Batard Show, appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get in touch with the show anytime to the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at Le Batard Show at Stugotz790. You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, simple. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Yeah.
Dan Van Gundy in with us. We've got the documentarian, that new Richard Pryor documentary. He's going to join us at 11:30 Eastern in 40 minutes. And then at 12:30 Eastern, you might say to yourself, how do you do magic on the radio? How magic is visual. How do you do it on the radio? We've got John Darrenbos, the former Eagles long snapper, who's like touring the world as a magician. He's coming through here. And he's going to do some tricks on ESPN Ooze for us. Maybe Stan and I will do the Nuggets while you guys are just enjoying magic on television, doing two different shows.
Well, that's the beauty of magic, Dan. You don't ask how magic happens. It just happens. You want to figure out how we do magic on the radio? Tune in when he's on. I forgot the time, 12:30.
12:30 Eastern. Thank you, Billy. I want to get to, I'm not happy what's happening around here. We should be happy for Stugotz and Mike Ryan. They have suffered for a long time. Mike Ryan has had football season after football season end in the first month of the season.
It's not like we haven't been suffering as a result of their suffering. It's been just as bad as us. Trust me. I feel like I should at least root for these teams with as much as a pain I have to go through hearing about it all the time.
Okay, but it does appear today. This is the most hopeful Brown situation anyone has seen since like Bernie Kosar was the quarterback.
Or since Johnny Manziel got drafted.
Yeah. Are you not aware how sports works, Dan? Like, this is competitive, all right? I wanted Beckham. We wanted Beckham, all right? That's not how this works.
The Dolphins?
Just anyone.
Everybody wants
Everyone's team wanted Beckham.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he's the greatest receiver of his generation. A surefire Hall of Famer.
See, we were hearing all these things about Baker Mayfield, and now we have to hear him about another player.
And then it really stings to hear that he was available for a first, a second, and not the good second, the second round pick that they have, and a bust in Peppers. I mean, so it seems like anyone could have had Odell Beckham.
A bust?
He's okay.
A bust?
He's fine. I mean, one big game on a Saturday night. I remember it.
Stugotz.
Yeah, Danny, that's been great. That's Mike. Mikey has not been great.
I will ask Mike in a second. You didn't say he hasn't been great. You said he was a bust, is what you said.
Right. Well, I expected him to be great, and when you don't live up to being great, then you're a bust.
You know what, Stugotz? I'm sorry, but based on what you did in the last segment with the division and making the Giants the number one offense in the league, and your analysis there, just get out of here. Just sit out the rest of the segment.
Also, your details on the trade are all wrong. It wasn't the second rounder. It was the second of the third rounders.
Oh, jeez.
I'm out of here.
Get out of
They
here.
only
Most points
gave
in the
up a-
division. I got Le'Veon Bell.
They only gave up a first, their worst third-round pick, and Jabril Peppers, who overall was a bit of a disappointment.
That was a confusing tweet when I saw that. They gave up their second, third-round pick. I'm like, is it the second-round pick or is it the third-round pick?
It's the second third-round pick. They have multiple ones because John Dorsey is a G.
So Stan Van Gundy's with us on Wednesday, and John, put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is John Dorsey a G? I think it'd be interesting to ask Stan if he knows what a G is.
No, I don't.
Okay.
John Dorsey.
Really?
I did, though, like on Hard Knocks, the best thing about John Dorsey was his dog that walked around the office all the time. I like that.
Go sit with Stugotz, Chris Cody. The incompetence is out in full force today. Stugotz, for those of you just joining us, Stugotz, a professional broadcaster who wants more money at every turn, said the Eli Manning Giants last year had the best offense in the sport.
¿Qué pasa, USA? It is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
He zoomed in on him so closely we could see everything on
All
his
right,
nose.
go ahead. Closer, please. Can you guys get closer? I want nothing in the background. I just want that camera to keep getting closer and closer so he's just a mouth. Thank you.
Emailed him, too. I thought I emailed him something because there's no one here, so I emailed Jacoby at Jacoby, okay? ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. The power to save is in your hands. Snapshot from Progressive. Reward your safe driving with discounts. Find out more at Progressive.com. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Draymond Green says that there is, quote, no air to clear between him and Steve Kerr regarding the video of Kerr where he appeared to say, I'm so bleeping tired of Draymond's bleep. Cordell Patterson intends to sign with the Bears to a 2-year deal worth $5 million per year. And finally, Philippine president.
It's Cordero Patterson. You just made him Cordell.
Oh, sorry about that. And finally, Philippine president Rodrigo Duterte addressed a group of women as the B word on Monday during a gender equality event.
Dios mío.
Here's the Select Quote term life insurance difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, one rate. But Select Quote shops and could get you up to 10 options from highly rated life insurers. For a free personalized quote, call 800-780-1010 or go to SelectQuote.com. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
One of the cool things to happen with the transactions yesterday is the joining, and this is fun for these guys, of Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. They are really close friends. They are brothers, basically, those two, from their time at LSU. And so the idea that now both of them will be young skill position people playing with a young quarterback. It's not just that the Browns think they're back. The Browns are coming back with young people and attitude as well, Stugotz, because their quarterback doesn't no bleeps given from that quarterback. And so it's not just that they're more interesting than they were, more talented. They've got a general manager willing to go out and make bold moves. On top of everything else, they've got personality.
And you have to assume because of the bond between them, they're going to be rooting for each other's success. So it's not going to be such a problem if the ball is going to someone other than Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh, no, they're not that close. Nobody's that close.
You don't think so?
Nobody's that close.
Because I'm sort of
Yeah, you're right about that, Dan. No.
Because I'm sort of
That's
holding
what
out
Ewing
hope.
always used to say about players in the NBA, and it would be the same with wide receivers. It's all about time and touches.
Yeah, Deion Sanders, I saw an interview with him, and everyone was sort of praising the strength of the friendship between Landry and Odell Beckham. I guess Deion Sanders has the same cut of jib, and he was saying, we'll see exactly how close of friends they are.
Yeah, we will find out, especially if all of a sudden if Jarvis Landry's not the one who's always getting thrown to because he's always throwing to Odell Beckham. Can we get Abby on the phone? Because evidently Stugotz spent the morning bothering his wife and his children. He's been up since 4 a.m. He got the news after midnight. Stan, is this how you were when you acquired the actual Blake Griffin? When you acquired him as coach, where you're pacing around the house and you can't sleep at night because you've made a big acquisition?
No, actually, that was one of the better nights to sleep. You'd done something, you were happy about it, you went to sleep, and certainly I wouldn't bother my wife with that.
I mean, Stan, I've had precious few days where I've had anything to be happy about since we've been married, outside of our marriage, of course. But I've had precious few days.
Good save right there, Stugotz.
You like that? So I've had precious. And listen, she roots for me. She knows how deeply I care about this team. She knows that I still care about my New York sports teams. And so there was a part of her that was very happy, just not happy at 4 a.m. this morning.
Who have you bothered more so far because of this, Abby or Adam Gase?
Oh, I mean, Gase is he's gone silent on me.
He's been texting Gase the bell emoji for many weeks now. And this morning, now Abby's been sick, okay? Abby's covered in blankets. She's been shivering. Stugotz came back from this vacation/work adventure where he charged everything to ESPN after spending 5 minutes on the jump.
Haven't done that yet. Thanks for the reminder.
And they both came back sick. So we got to get a hold of what you've been annoying your family all morning. You were just you were telling me during the break that you woke your daughters up with a tiny Liberty Bell.
I was standing outside their room with a tiny miniature Liberty Bell. And so usually I get up around 7. I was out there at 6:55 tailgating. And I was just waiting. And then I went into Rachel's room. Now, Rachel's a big Jet fan. She's very happy. She's been tracking this Le'Veon Bell news. I mean, she gives me updates. She has more accurate information than I have. And so Rachel,
that's not saying much given your first hour on the show today.
You ain't kidding. And so I just rang the bell. Rachel got right out of bed. She knew what that meant. She gave me a big hug. And she said, Daddy, we're going to a Jet game next year. And I said, yes, we are. Unless they start 0-3, and then we're not going to any of these games. Then I went into Emma's room and did the same thing, and she told me to get the bleep out of her room. Yeah. She wants nothing to do with it. She doesn't care. She doesn't like football. She dances. She wants nothing to do with this and doesn't care that Daddy was happy for 5 seconds.
How do you think Bill Belichick, seriously, Stan, given his domination of that sport, when he hears the AFC East has been as incompetent a thing as there is in sports after the Patriots for the last, 17 years. The Jets had a little run in there that helped Rex Ryan for a couple of years, but even those were 10-6 teams. This has been some bad football in this division. When the news gets to Barbados between dives off of his boat that the Jets have gotten Le'Veon Bell, Stan, honestly, what do you think the honest reaction of Bill Belichick is, given that he sits out all of these free agent frenzies?
Yeah, I would think he was, somewhat interested, but I would say on the continuum probably leaned a little closer to apathy than fear.
Do you think he even knows yet? I bet he doesn't know. I feel like he's not going to get any of this news until 2 or 3 weeks from now. He's like, that's what happened. All right, here we go.
Actually, when the Jets show up to play, they got Le'Veon.
He's worried about the Browns.
Oh, for the love of God.
Hey, you remember those reports that the Patriots were and having conversations about Odell Beckham? He values Odell Beckham, even at this price. He's a little worried. He's a little worried, I'll tell you that.
I don't think he's worried at all.
A little bit of concern.
Mike, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I am going to go ahead and say this, and I think I will be empirically backed up by all of the numbers. The thing that has least concerned Bill Belichick the last 20 years in the entire world is the Cleveland Browns. Like, of all the concerns in his life, the least is right there with your team.
The rest of the AFC East is a close second.
Belichick's only failure is as the coach in your city.
Yeah, I will have you know that historically, since I re-entered the league, play the Patriots tough. They play them tough. I think we even snuck in a W.
What does that mean?
Cole McCoy beat them once.
Go to the Dolphins. The Dolphins play them tough.
You have something to hang your hat on.
It is not something to hang your hat on. Why are we hanging the hat on that?
Brandon Whedon went into Foxborough and almost pulled it off. Or was that Jason Campbell? Who cares? Play him tough.
Billy, Chris, Roy, when you heard the news that the Dolphins counter on Odell Beckham and Le'Veon Bell was re-signing Devontae Parker, how did that one go over there among you guys?
I drank.
You drank.
That's when I knew we were tanking. I was like, yep, they're definitely tanking.
You guys are so broken by the we've got just a division in this room, Stan. I don't know what to do about it, where Roy and Billy and Chris are crestfallen, and Mike Ryan is hopped up on electricity and Red Bull and swagger, and Stugotz is all excited because he's won the free agent transaction of the night.
It's because the Dolphins have signed Dwayne Allen and Devontae Parker. That's why. All right?
Look, positive signs. You've signed Dwayne Allen and Eric Rowe, 2 former Patriots. You're making them weaker.
Oh, great.
There you go. That's a good take on that, Mike. Yeah.
They got Brady.
Yeah, there is that. And Brady's got some sort of anti-aging thing.
And you just lost Cam Wake, who is like the only person that can affect Tom Brady.
Oof. Tanking for Tua, though. I mean, hey, how about that?
Tanking for two already. We haven't even gone to the organized team activities, and we're tanking.
Tuanking for Toa.
Yeah.
No, get out.
Bye. Goodbye.
Escúchame, it is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Football.
Defensive touchdown.
Did Billy break a pencil in the middle of that?
I broke 2 pencils.
Football. A 4th pencil. This is going to be a rare 4 broken pencil Tuesday.
No.
5 pencils.
Get in touch with the show anytime to the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at Levitard Show at Stugotz790. If you missed any of our interviews, go check out the entire interview on demand in the Dan Levitard podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Dan, it's time for Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts.
The director of that Richard Pryor documentary is going to join us in 15 minutes. And lest you think that FBI agents were wasting their time wiretapping the LSU basketball coach, they recently morning raided Guns Drawn, the home of Felicity Huffman, the desperate housewife. So we'll get to that story with Stan Van Gundy. It's a great scandal.
Were the guns necessary?
I don't think so, no. But before we do any of that, Stugotz and Mike Ryan have the volume on Obnoxious turned up to 10. And poor Abby, this saint married to Stugotz. You can check her out on Thursdays.
She's coming on.
Starring on Stupidity. She's sick. She's not feeling well. She's been shivering under covers. Abby, just explain to me what happened this morning with your husband and just how awful it was.
I mean, I don't even know if I can put it into words, but basically around 4:50 a.m., I hear a bell ringing and walking around the house saying, they got him. I mean, I'm like sneezing and vomiting, and I don't even know what he was talking about.
I was a little frisky, too, wasn't I, honey?
Oh, no.
Yeah, you were like pushing me. You were literally pushing me off. They got him. I thought it was like a robbery. Like, I don't even know what was going on. Like a criminal was like.
How annoyed were your daughters? Were they also awakened this way?
Yeah. I mean, Rachel was excited. I have to admit that she thought it was the best thing ever. She was upset. She felt bad that he woke the rest of us up because she's the only one that actually cares. Emma was like.
She cursed at me. Emma cursed at me, Abby.
Yeah, she's like, I have 2 more hours to sleep. Yeah.
So before we let you go, how much miniature Liberty Bell was there in your 4:50 to 5 a.m. hour?
Well, I mean, we were all screaming, yelling, what's going on? So not much. But the fact that it even was for a half a second was more than
agreed.
we could all handle.
I'm sorry that you married him. Thank you for being.
What'd you say?
Thank you for being on with us, Abby. Feel better, please.
We got Le'Veon Bell.
Anytime.
Stupidity. Thursdays at noon sometimes. So, Stan, what did you make of this whole college entrance exam nonsense? It's amazing to me. Ensnared in the FBI's tangled web, Felicity Huffman and Full House member.
I mean, one thing that we learned here, and not to interrupt Stan.
But you're doing it.
I'm doing it. We were talking about why does the FBI care about LSU wiretapping, and I think the logical conclusion was tax dollars. This is a $25 million scheme by this guy, so that's $25 million untaxed dollars, you would assume.
Yeah, and the fraud to colleges. I mean, remember now, the NCAA basketball recruiting cases that are going on, whether they should be going on or not, but they're going on. It's all based on fraud, and they're doing the same thing here, indicting these people for fraud. And look, there's three things going on. I mean, the parents who are willing to pay this money, I guess simply to impress everyone with the fact that their kids are going to Yale or Stanford. The coaches who not only unethically took the money, but also just surrendered spots on their teams. I mean, basically, that could go to recruited athletes, which would make their teams better. They were willing to give those up and screw over their teams for this. And then the third thing is, and it sort of brings it out, there was an article, a column, David Leonhardt in the New York Times today, saying that the big problem, and they had just completed a study, is that athletes, even at Division III institutions, I was surprised, are 30% more likely to be admitted with the same grades and SAT scores as other students. And that's why scandals like this scandal came about, because that's how you can get kids into school, is to simply say they're athletes. We're not talking the Zion Williamsons of the world that get you into the NCAA tournament and bring your school a lot of publicity. We're talking about kids at Williams College in Massachusetts, a really good academic school, Division III, same idea. And so there's this whole problem of how big a boost we give athletes to get into schools and how unfair that is to other students.
I love some of the details in this story. My favorite so far is that the kids don't seem to be that interested in college. Like, they want to just be sort of, or one of them wants to just be an influencer, doesn't have time for college, while the mother is trying to buy her into school. So what was your favorite detail from what you've read, Stan?
Well, I mean, to me, it was it's the pictures they took, to basically show, oh yeah, my daughter. I mean, somebody put them in a crew boat because they were saying she was going to school as a coxswain on the crew team, and then somebody supposedly was cropping pictures of pole vaulters, and I mean, some of these things is just, it's hilarious, that it's hilarious, but it's also pretty sad that people would go to these links to get their kids into these schools.
Well, Stugotz was stomping around here yesterday, and he hates when I do this to him because he's like, these people are awful, this and that. And I'm like, you would do exactly the same thing if you had those kinds of monies and powers.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, now I've had to rethink everything and have to rethink how I'm going to get my kids into school. This is crazy. But I'm glad this story broke, because now I know I can't do what I was about to do.
No, but it does bring up, I mean, to where it's unfair. So Stugotz was in L.A. last week, and we were talking, and his daughter was looking at schools for lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that somebody out there who's not even a lacrosse player could go and take one of those spots.
It's okay, I mean, as long as it's a celebrity.
Patently unfair.
No, it's infuriating because, Dan, I'm telling you, you'll see kids on lacrosse benches who never take the sweatshirt off, the jacket off. They're there, and you're wondering, why are they there? Why are they going through all this? to never play in a game. And I've seen them there for years. They're at the very end of the bench. They have no chance of going in. And I wonder, have they ever played lacrosse at all?
You've been wondering about
we're finding out now. Maybe the answer's no.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how. Like, I don't know which sports this extends out to. I don't know where it ends. I got to tell you, as someone, Stan's right, that has a daughter that's doing it the right way, who's trying to get to college, and she's good enough to play lacrosse Division I. If she doesn't have that opportunity because someone paid $500,000 to get their kid into college, I am going to be outraged, even while admitting I would have done the same thing.
And while paying $600,000.
That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE network.
The director of the new Richard Pryor documentary is next.
You're experiencing the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Jesse James Miller is going to join us in just a second. He is the director of I Am Richard Pryor, which premieres this Friday at 10 p.m. on the Paramount Network. Looking forward to seeing that. He'll join us here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. Speaking of things I'm looking forward to watching, you can check out live coverage of Kyler Murray's Pro Day on SportsCenter on ESPN2. Dan, you watching that? Pro Day. Murray. Oh. Here's your SportsCenter update. Draymond Green. What did I say? Ween? Yeah. Anyway, said that there is, quote, no air to clear between him and Steve Kerr regarding the video of Kerr, where he appeared to say, I'm so bleeping tired of Draymond's bleep. Cordella Patterson intends to sign with the Bears to a two-year deal. I said his name right when he was a Patriot. Yeah, Cordella. Yeah. What is it?
Cordero.
Cordero Patterson intends to sign with the Bears 2 years, $5 million per season. And finally, a fox has died in extraordinary circumstances after losing the ultimate game of chicken during a nighttime raid on a hen house. Students at a school in France were shocked to discover the dead body of the fox riddled with peck marks during their morning rounds last week. The school maintains their brood of free-range chicken ganged up on the animal, attacking it in large numbers and overcoming it. Wow. Some story.
An upset.
I know. Patterson, that's a bargain. With the Vivid Seats app, it's easy to find awesome seats to any game. Go to the App Store or Google Play and download the app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
So our next guest has put in a good amount of work into the art of making a documentary about Richard Pryor. I hope he doesn't hold against us how poorly read all of that was by Stugotz.
Why would he?
Stan Van Gundy is with us.
Read it if you want to.
And Stan, before we start with Jesse James Miller, you've seen the I Am Richard Pryor documentary. What pulled you toward it, and what takeaways did you have?
Well, what pulled me toward it was an interest in Richard Pryor, one of the great comedians of our time, and I knew a little bit about his background, but I mean, an incredible story of his life and you know, his upbringing and then his professional life and everything else. I mean, it's a phenomenal documentary.
So Jesse James Miller, the director, is with us now. I Am Richard Pryor premieres Friday, 10 p.m. Paramount Network. There's a lot been written about Richard Pryor. There have been films done on Richard Pryor. Jesse James Miller, thank you for joining us. How is yours different?
Well, that's a good question, guys. Thanks for having me on, by the way. You know, I just tackled it as much from his perspective as possible and trying to give him his own voice. So whenever, you know, we used albums, we used archive as much as possible just to give him his due say in his own film.
What surprised you as you did some of the research and reporting on this?
Well, I mean, like Stan, I knew a lot about him, but he's so layered as a person. The farther you went into this kind of world that explained his later sort of lapses into heroin and the drugs and the women and stuff. So it made more sense to me the more you dived into his past.
What were the parts? I imagine part of that is growing up in a brothel, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's far more complicated than that. Just the family dynamics and also the white culture he grew up within as a comedian too was constraining as well. So there's a lot of angles to him as a person, and his genius showed how he overcame a lot of those things.
What did you find out about Richard while doing this film that surprised you the most?
How brilliant he was.
You knew that going in, though, no? Like, what you mean to overcome the degree of difficulty and overcoming all he overcame through that brilliance?
No, I think just in his actual work, the genres he sort of hopped around and went back and forth from the albums to the acting to his poetry. We have some poetry in it, which we found at the old radio station in Berkeley. Just his vast knowledge of being an artist really was the depths was incredible for me to find.
What kind of things like that? Again, Jesse James Miller's new film I Am Richard Pryor premieres this Friday, 10 p.m. Paramount Network. What kind of little treasures like that did you find that you were excited to find?
Well, I mean, I knew about Wattstax and I knew about Juke and Opal with Lily Tomlin and stuff, but that was just because I went and spent a few months in archive before I made the film with my editor. So we started listening to all his albums and Bicentennial and stuff like that, all these kind of treasures that, of course, the Richard Pryor Show. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Just his genius just overlaps so many different genres, which was the most surprising part for me.
Stan, what do you have for Jesse James Miller, the documentarian of I Am Richard Pryor? It premieres this Friday, 10 p.m. Paramount Network. What do you have for him, Stan?
Well, I was struck by the fact that he was so revolutionary as a black comedian, and he had so much to say, and he paved the way for so many people, but none of that seemed to really make him happy as an individual. And I was just wondering how you came away from this feeling about him. Like, were you sad for him? Did you see him as a dark person? Did you think there was an underlying happiness? Just sort of your overall views of Richard Pryor as a person.
Well, that's a good question, Stan. I mean, there's tortured souls in life that you come across, and sometimes they're created through things they went through. Sometimes they just enter the world that way. I don't know what it is for Richard, but he definitely was hurting, but he dealt with it and he overcame. The striking thing is what he overcame to get to share with us his genius. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think that later in life he did come to terms with a lot of things, and Jennifer Pryor really helps with that kind of arc in the story.
What from his childhood most shaped him? Excuse me for interrupting you.
Well, I think his grandmother for sure. She ruled the house with compassion, but also with brute strength. There's when you watch the film, I think a lot of people last night at the premiere were a bit stunned. they're hoping. I mean, there's a lot of funny moments in the film, but there's also a lot of layers of and depths of humanity in it. So
stunned by which part?
I'm sorry.
Stunned by which part?
The fun part?
No, stunned by which part? You said the people at the premiere were stunned.
By the depth of his life, I think people who walked in without knowing a little bit more about Pryor's background were kind of like stunned by that.
The other thing that got me, I'm sorry, Dan. Can you comment on the sort of the contradiction? At one point in the documentary, he was also, they were talking about, while he was making people laugh, he was actually angry that people were laughing about things that had been so hard for him, talking about his life and his comedy.
Yeah, I think that comes from Michael Epps, and that comes from his own personal experience dealing with Pryor as well. So it is a contradiction. It's a strange one. I think comedians are a lot of them are tortured. That's where comedy comes from, is from the sadness of life, and I think everybody deals with that in that genre of artwork.
Again, the new film, I Am Richard Pryor, premieres this Friday, 10 p.m. Paramount Network. Jesse James Miller, the documentarian, on with us on ESPN Radio. What were the depths of the drug use? What were the parts that made you saddest? Because it was something that ravaged him.
Well, I didn't get too involved with the fire and the drugs. I mean, I of course you have to go there with Richard. I think it just there's a clip from Stir Crazy from an interview that he did on the side, which is quite shocking about how far he went. But I mean, the fire. I didn't really focus on the fire and tried to substantiate it with understanding him better before we got to that part of the film. So, I mean, yeah, I just didn't spend too much time with it as much as others have, I think.
Most people, that's where they get stuck, on the women and the drugs. That's the part of the story that they tell. What you're telling us, right, and what you enjoy doing, you feel like this is the most comprehensive look at Richard Pryor there's ever been, I would imagine, given the amount of time investment.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, there's other films that have been done, very good films on him. I'm coming from a humanist sort of standpoint and trying to, dress this person down to understand why he did the things he did and how he did it.
I watched it. I thought it was great. I was moved. The one question I had after watching the movie, Jesse, is how do you think Le'Veon Bell will fit in with the Jets? Well, what happened?
He's going to be great.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Jets, but I think he'll do great.
Jesse, we appreciate it. Thank you. Congratulations on the film. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Right.
You're engulfed in the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Peace. Pow.
Dan, let's take a look at who got it done. The Raiders have been busy in the transaction circuit over the past year. They gave up Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, some guy, Kelce, a 3rd, 5th, and 6th round pick this year, a 2nd and 6th next year in trades. Roy, I can't say that last name. You know that. What they got in return was Antonio Brown, 3 first-round picks, and a 5th-round pick this year, and a 2nd and 5th-round pick next year, effectively setting themselves up for building the future once they take the field in Las Vegas. I'll tell you, Gruden's done a good job. The Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders getting it done. Brought to you by Grainger. Grainger's got your back when it comes to the safety and industrial supplies that help keep your facility running. Get what you need when you need it, only at Grainger.com.
So John Darrenbose is going to join us in about 45 minutes. His backstory is that he was a Philadelphia Eagle, and then he became a magician. He was at America's Got Talent, one of these shows. He got a lot of acclaim. He got a long run. He was playing this show for a while, and now he's a magician. He's touring as a magician, so he's going to come through here. You could catch what he does on ESPN Ooze in 45 minutes visually, and we're also going to talk to him.
It's Darren Boss. And Dan, he finished third that season, so that means he was the third most talented person in America that year.
I love a magic show. Do you guys not love a magic show? Like in Vegas? Oh, my God. Pulling rabbits out of hats. He might not do that, but, stuff like that. Just
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Do you love a magic show?
Matt, who doesn't? How can't you like
that's
a magic
got to be
show?
100%. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Right,
Dan.
everyone loves a magic show. I'm with you, Stan.
Well, I want to share this with Stan because he's familiar with Stugotz's work. And Stugotz, very often during the breaks, we work in a confined space. It can't be healthy, the tight circumstances where we're bouncing into each other all the time. Allison comes in a couple times a show and walks away from Stugotz just muttering, Dan, I don't know how you do it. Now, the last time she did this, no, because here's what's happening, Stan. He's already got ADD, and now he's on the high of he's acquired Le'Veon Bell, and there's some good Jets fuel in his life. So I'm not kidding you when I say this, Stan. Listen to what just happened during the break. So he's already apologized to me 4 times. He's blamed medicine. He's like, Dan, I'm sorry I'm so annoying today. Last thing. And then here's the last thing. I'm not making this up. It's the last thing I heard from Stugotz, him reading from his computer. You tell me what this has to do with anything.
Courtesy of John Rothstein on Twitter, Vermont against UMBC in the American East title game. A chance for the Catamounts to get redemption. A chance for UMBC to get back to the stage where it shined a year ago. This is March. Goosebumps.
It does give you goosebumps. And I started my coaching career as an assistant at the University of Vermont.
Oh, boy.
So I still follow them.
See, Dan?
Full circle.
Very meaningful, Dan.
Yeah.
Very meaningful, at least to me.
I mean, March Madness right around the corner. It's championship week, and I got my finger on the pulse of things that are interesting. Hey, how about that? Catamounts. They had a big upset, and then UMBC went on and shocked the world in the NCAA tournament. I predicted that. But here I am torn, Stan, because you were an assistant at Vermont. My dad went there. My brother went there. My best friend went there. And I don't know who to go with tonight. I'll be honest with you.
You got to go with the Catamounts. They're at home. They're not going to lose again at home.
All right, UVM it is.
What did you predict?
I predicted that UMBC
Catamounts win tonight at home.
Well, that's Stan's prediction. I predicted, I probably said it wrong, that UMBC would be the first 16 seed to upset a 1 seed last year in the NCAA tournament. Remember that, right? I did say
that's great. That's a great pick. I mean, it would have been hard to pull that one out.
I got solid guard play.
Not exactly how that happened. You just said, watch out, they may make some noise. But you said for every team.
Well, here's the thing, though, Stan. Thank you for that correction, Billy, because this is what we have found out. What we have found out is that Stugotz, on a moment's notice, can fake his way through a great deal of college basketball analysis. Stan, let me help you with this because I've made fun with and about Charles Barkley. The idea that he comes in and crams all these ridiculous tests where they work him harder than he works at any other time during the year, force-feeding him knowledge on what's happened in college basketball. And Stugotz over the years has gotten very good, even if he doesn't know but the bare minimum facts on a team. Stugotz has gotten very good at just faking his way through the bluster, and he can sound like Seth Greenberg and Jay Williams and everyone else, even though he doesn't know anything. So what's a random team that might make the
Well, we'll
tournament?
go with the Catamounts out of the American East Conference, 28-6. John Becker, a very underrated head coach. And I'm telling you, Dan, redemption time for Vermont because they lost this game a year ago. So they are looking to get back. But here's the difference between this year's team and last year's team. They have more experienced guard play this year than they had last year simply because the guys are a year older. And so when you have experienced guard play in March and an experienced coach who's not going to be there very long out of a very underrated conference, the American East Conference, and they beat a good UMBC team, if they do that and gain some confidence, watch out and don't be surprised if the Catamounts out of the American East find themselves in the Sweet 16.
So he did that on about 40 teams last year, and one of them came through, is what happened. He did that right there. He doesn't
One's bound to stick.
And so finally, last year was the first time a 16's ever beat a 1, right? Pablo, poor Pablo, with all his highfalutin formulas, trying to figure out who the 16 is going to be to beat the one. He's been doing that on Around the Horn for years and never been right. Stugotz stumbles into it with just, volume shooting.
There you go. Throw as much against the wall as you can. Something's got to stick.
There you go, Stan. That's been my philosophy my entire career.
So we've got March Madness coming up around here. Now, Stan, do you just sink into a chair and watch a whole lot of bad basketball, or do you not do that?
No, I watch it. I love it when you get. I don't watch much during the year, but I love it when you get to the tournament. And in years when I'm not coaching, like now, I'll watch almost the entire thing.
So much popcorn. How much popcorn do you? Oh, so much popcorn.
At least a bag of popcorn a game.
M&Ms. How many M&Ms? How many M&Ms, Stan?
Yeah, fewer M&Ms than popcorn, but there will be. Yeah, there'll be plenty. Yeah.
Keep it locked to the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Dan Le Batard was actually offering encouragement.
He better get further.
Explosive on the What? And that looked like a Knicks first-round draft pick failing to deliver once again. Amin, come on.
Amin Al-Hassan.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The NBA has suspended Serge Ibaka 3 games and Marquise Chris 1 game, each without pay, for their role in a fight during the Raptors-Cavaliers game on Monday. Both top seeds and world number ones, Novak Djokovic and Naomi Osaka, have been eliminated from their third-round matches in the BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells. And finally, according to research aided by brain scans, actors show different brain activity when they are in character. The Giant Junior Bacon Cheeseburger is only at Wendy's. Get double the fresh, never frozen beef, 4 strips of Applewood smoked bacon alongside 4-piece nuggets, small fries, and a small drink for the junior price of $5. Available at participating U.S. Wendy's for a limited time. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. Stan Van Gundy giving the Straight Talk is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Are you surprised that the Lakers have the same record this year with LeBron that they had last year at this time? We'll get to that conversation with Stan Van Gundy. Also going to be doing some magic around here. He's coming into studio. Look at Chris Cody all fired up, applauding. He's happy because a magician is coming in, and we are going to be doing magic on ESPN Ooze here in about a half hour, where Stan and I will do a basketball segment in here for the radio audience, and then the television audience could enjoy just a magic show on ESPN Ooze. But your Nuggets, what is the theme? What is the theme of your Nuggets this week, Stan?
Oh, the theme is you aren't getting any nuggets. I mean, you thought I was kidding.
Yeah.
No, wait, 2 weeks ago, you interrupted me like 3 or 4 times. And last week, well, everybody in there was disrespectful to the Nuggets and to me. There's no Nuggets. No.
Oh, no.
I was in studio with Stan. I told you.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
He was very upset.
Yes.
Coming. Yeah, no. Stugotz was there. Stugotz the only one that has respect for me. So
I was trying to accommodate you. You said that you didn't like the traditional Nugget sound. And on the fly, not unlike a fighter pilot, I came up with a perfect sound to replace it.
That's
no,
fair.
There was total disrespect, and there has been for a couple of weeks here, and you have to take a stand against it.
Hold on a second, if I may, and that's fine. If you've taken this stand for the week or forever, I understand it, and I will respect you as a man of principle. But if we promise to respect your nugget, do you have any available to give us, or did you simply not, in protest, prepare any nuggets?
No, I actually have nuggets available.
Okay.
Right.
And I was thinking, that I could give them to Stugotz off the air as the only person that respects me.
Okay, I will do this. How about this? Mike, you and I sit in the penalty box, and some other people, Roy, you handle We will go to the penalty
Well,
box.
I don't know that I trust those guys either. They were all part of this. So,
Right,
I mean.
All right, so just you and Stugotz.
What an amazing accomplishment by me. The only person Stan trusts on this show is me. I mean, that's amazing.
All right.
Well, Stugotz and I had some serious
Yes.
chemistry in that studio in OLA last week.
We
I
did.
mean,
Yeah.
no question.
Well, Mike, I want the Nuggets. What do I need to do to get the Nuggets? Do I need to leave the room and you guys will handle it? You will properly respect the Nuggets?
Sounds like we've been banned from the Nuggets.
Okay.
I mean, Mike might be the person I trust the least on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair. Trust me like I trust your football judgment.
I mean, plus all Mike wants is like Baker Mayfield Nuggets.
It's been a little too long since we last spoke about the trade, actually, now that you mention it. Let's talk about win probability. Here are Mike's OBJ Nuggets. Let's go.
What are fair expectations for the Cleveland Browns, honestly, as a team that has been a laughingstock for decades now, and certainly no one has been laughed at more the last, 5 years before Baker Mayfield's arrival than the Cleveland Browns. What are fair expectations now that you see that they have young name players all over the field? They've got guys who have promise, and they're the rare football team that seems to be building for the next 5 or 6 years because they're getting people the same age who complement each other. They're not building a one-year team like a lot of teams are.
Seems like a dynasty.
Yeah, it's between us and the Jets, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, you want to know fair? Here it is. I think we're the 4th best team in the AFC. I don't think it's not unreasonable to talk division title. I think they still have to close a gap. They weren't at all close to the Chargers when they played the Chargers. They're not close to the Chiefs. We'll see what if the Patriots slide ever begins. But I think they might be the 4th best team, maybe win a wild card round game at home, and then lose in the second round and have something to build on going forward. How's that for fair and reasonable?
Stan?
Well, the Texans are way ahead of them too. So they're at best the 5th best team, and there's a lot of teams that are right there with them on that.
The Texans. Did you watch a playoff game against the Colts? If you wanted to give me the Colts, I could understand. But Texans?
The Colts are pretty darn good too. I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs. The Browns. They're going to go 8-8 at best. That's the reasonable.
So you're saying the difference between this year's team and last year's team is they'll, instead of tie at Pittsburgh, they'll win that game.
Half a game.
You can't be trusted.
Half a game. I love it.
This is a wrestling heel character.
So excited.
He's entrenched.
Half a game.
He's entrenched, and the thing that he keeps clubbing you over the head with, and it's a checkmate move, is they're the Browns. And
they're going to screw it up.
Yeah, I have nothing to come back.
They're going to come back, and Freddie Kitchens will decide at the start of the year to bring Baker Mayfield off the bench, and start some veteran
Johnny
guy
Manziel.
from somewhere.
Johnny Manziel and Josh Gordon.
Yeah, Johnny
go back
Manziel
to that
back. They're going to do something crazy. They're going to. I mean, they will.
But on paper,
the Browns.
Dan, you would agree on paper they probably are one of the top.
I think it's indisputable. I think that Stan is out here with an opinion that I'm not hearing anywhere else, which he is just telling you at every turn. The Browns aren't making the playoffs. They're still the Browns. It's not exactly a controversial take by
Stay strong, Stan.
We are tortured. Like Mike and I were. The Jet fan base is a tortured fan base, and so is the Browns fan base. We are conditioned to think the worst. Now, Mike is very positive today, and I want you to stay there because you're having a good day and you deserve it.
Mike has not been this happy at work or in general. Like, sports have brought him today genuine happiness. He has not been this happy about his football team in a very long time.
Right. And they brought, listen, I have genuine happiness today as well, but my fear as a Jet fan, because we're so tortured, is that Le'Veon Bell is either going to get hurt week 1 or he's just going to have a dreadful
season. He used wrong.
Yeah. Karma's going to come back and get Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. And I'm not allowed to have nice things as a Browns fan. And I understand, yes, Jets fans are a tortured bunch. And I love it anytime someone tries to compare their tragedy as a sports fan to mine. There's no comparison. Stugotz, you made it to back-to-back AFC championships within this decade. No. Get out of here. Yeah. I had 2 combined seasons where I had 1 win. This is my time. I got Odell Beckham Jr. entering his prime. I got tons of dead money going to New York, and if he wants his contract fully guaranteed, give it to him, because I have Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., the best defensive line in football, and let's get Earl Thomas. He's still a bit. Let's get Earl Thomas. Yeah, let's get everyone. Yeah. I got one of the better secondaries in the league if I get Earl Thomas. Watch out, baby, because I'm here, and I'm going to be here for a decade plus.
Mort said you're not getting Earl Thomas, by the way, just so you know. But no, Mike is right. Like, listen, in my lifetime, in your lifetime, you've had nothing. Nothing. I've
Well,
had
worse than
3 or
that.
4 AFC championship
Worse
games.
than that. What he's had in his lifetime is seasons that are done after 2 weeks.
Right. Right.
I haven't been able to. Last season was the first football season that I've enjoyed since 2007. I've had 2 winning seasons since they came back. This is absurd. You can't put me through this much pain. I'm finally coming out of it, guys. I got the quarterback finally after 17
and
tries.
you got a swashbuckling general manager as well. But Stan has got your forever checkmate. Until games are played, there is no argument against they're the Browns. It's all there is.
And I don't trust in any sport. I mean, I've been through it in the NBA. I don't trust the teams who win meaningless games late in the year that, oh, here they come, they make progress. We see it every year in the NBA. There's 1 or 2 teams that are out of it, and, they won 8 of their last 10 meaningless games.
This is
it
absurd.
Never carries
You're
over.
making these games that they won at the end of the year to keep them in actually the playoff hunt meaningless.
They weren't
it's
in the
unbelievable.
playoff
They were
hunt.
absolutely in the hunt. That game at Denver was an elimination game. You should be embarrassed of yourself because you are one of the more respected basketball minds. But you know what, Stan Van Gundy, in football, you've proven to be out of your depth.
I'm already tired of the Browns.
That part is true, but nonetheless, to say they were in the playoff hunt is ridiculous.
Put it on the poll, please, Chris. Is it ridiculous to say that last year the Cleveland Browns were in the playoff hunt?
Dan, you always say the most important guy, at least you've said this in baseball, you'd rather have Theo Epstein than Madden, right? It appears John Dorsey, who has put together the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs, it appears he's the guy, right?
Well, he's not afraid.
That's true.
Right.
Give him credit. Yes, I agree.
He's not afraid to do things like that. What's one of the fascinating things around that league to me, Stan, is all these guys who are demanding this physical, hey, go paralyze yourself toughness from the players. As executives, they behave scared. The guy who's wearing a gas mask on draft day falls in the draft because everyone scurries and runs in a different direction. They hang on to quarterbacks too long, like Eli Manning, just because the solid feeling of a name. They tether themselves. Even Belichick didn't want to play Tom Brady. Drew Bledsoe's lungs had to fill with blood, and he's got stature and seniority, so he takes all the chances, but he knows he's playing against scared money. Belichick is always playing against scared money.
I think that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of, bias in the league of, you're more worried, I think, a lot of times about doing something that could make you worse than you are excited about the chance to, maybe take a risk and do something that makes you better. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, in every walk of life, right, the status quo is hard for people to overcome.
Keep it on the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
If you missed any of the show, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Dan Le Batard Show, plus our Miami-only hour and our Best of podcast on demand in the ESPN app. And subscribe to the Le Batard and Friends Podcast Network featuring South Beach sessions as well as Stupidity, our brand new podcast hosted by me. New episodes every week. Please rate and subscribe. It's all available in the More tab of the ESPN app. Find top-rated pros for any home project at homeadvisor.com. Our thanks here to John Derenboss for giving us the Straight Talk.
Dornboss.
Dornboss?
Billy corrected me earlier.
Oh.
Dornboss.
All right, sorry about that, John. Dornboss giving the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contract.
We will get to John Dornboss in a second because his story is a bit crazy. An evening with John Dornboss this Saturday at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida. If you want tickets, if you want information, you go to myhrl.com. What a weird career path you have had. Can you give the people the Cliff Notes version of what your career story is?
Yeah, so long story short, I lost my parents when I was 12. went into temporary foster homes, got into magic, which was cool. Then I got into football. I wanted to be a rock star, but I can't sing, can't dance, can't play an instrument. So I wanted to play in front of 100,000 people. Didn't get any scholarship. So I sent other people's film in a montage and said it was me. All of them were me. Then I got a full ride to Texas, El Paso, and then I made the NFL, which was 6. So I did 2 in Buffalo, 2 in Tennessee, and then 11 in Philly.
As a long snapper. As a long snapper, you perfected this one very specific craft because you said I don't have the size to do this otherwise. But if I perfect this singular skill, it's like a magic trick.
Yeah, and I wasn't even really that good back then, but I guess I was better than others were, right? So yeah, so I did that, and then I got traded to New Orleans, which was cool. Actually, I broke the record, so I hold the record for most consecutive games ever played as an Eagle, which is really cool. Proud of that. I got traded to New Orleans, and then they discovered I had an aneurysm in my heart, and I had emergency open heart surgery that ended my, which would have been a 15-year NFL career. And then I always did magic as a kid, so I did America's Got Talent. Ellen DeGeneres picked me up, and we do magic. So now we go around and we sell out theaters, and we have a blast, man. It's kind of my rock star moment. I love it.
Do you like it more than football?
Oh, it's different. I was doing magic as a kid, and I loved it. And then a buddy of mine's like, "Hey, you should play football." And I'm like, I'm good. He goes, "Well, you can hit that guy and not get in trouble." Yeah, okay, I'm in. So it was a balance, right? So I could go during the day, and you're the alpha male, and you're just hitting people like a bunch of meatheads. And then I would go home and shuffle, and it was more intellectual for me. So it was a great balance. So at this point in my life, at this point where my body is, yeah, I'd rather perform because I don't have to have surgery.
But what's been more fulfilling for you?
Ooh. I tell you, man, both.
Really?
Like I said, I had that balance where I could just go out and get all the adrenaline out and then come home and just sit at a table and shuffle. And, as a kid in his teens trying to figure out who you are, to have that outlet of aggression and, simplicity and kind of spirituality kind of coming together was really cool.
Well, people are amazed by your attitude, especially the way you came out of the open heart surgery experience. All of that sounded like it was pretty horrific. It also sounds like you were super positive somehow during it.
It was gnarly, and it was kind of like my whole life coming into one. And what I mean by that is I tell people, like, don't listen to yourself, talk to yourself when you're down and out. Just tell yourself where you want to be. Well, all of a sudden, I was at those crossroads, and I kind of took my own advice. And it was about an 11-hour surgery. I was in the hospital 30 days post. And so basically the vein that leaves your heart is called the aorta. It should be about the size of a dime or a nickel, and mine blew up to be about the size of a Coke can, like a water balloon. So if that pops, you're done. And I just remember looking in the mirror in the bathroom and just saying, "Hey, man, hold your head up. You got this. Walk that hallway, and we're good." And never, people asked, "Did you think you weren't going to make it?" Never once did I not think I was going to make it. But
How
yeah,
did your heart get to that place without sports being able to detect it before then?
It's a great question. I don't know. I think it's one of those things that when I got traded, the murmur or the leaking blood acted up, and Dr. Amos in New Orleans heard it in the stethoscope when I was doing my entrance physical. So I just think I got lucky, man, and I got traded to New Orleans to have my life saved by a saint.
And what does your career as a magician now look like? Because you have turned this into a legitimate professional career, right?
It's so fun. It's
so
so
happy you look.
Oh, dude, it's so cool. Like the only 2 jobs I've ever had are doing magic and football. Like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad. It's like you guys, man. We're doing what we love to do, right? And then not only that, but now people are choosing to listen. People are choosing to watch. And like, we're bringing joy to this world. We're bringing people into our lives because they want to be. It's super rock star. So America's Got Talent obviously gave me a chance to do it on the big stage. And then getting on Ellen, she gave me relevancy over time. And so when you're in the live entertainment space, you need relevancy over time. So now, we do these beautiful theaters that I dreamed of as a kid, and it's my life story with magic tied in. It's not a traditional magic show. There's no boxes and dancing girls and stuff like that. It's Rockstar, man. Bring your family, bring your kids. I basically performed this show talking to myself when I was 14, and so I promise you I'll inspire your kids, and they'll love it. Hopefully I can inspire you, and we'll laugh, and we'll do some cool tricks, man.
Did you succeed in America's Got Talent because the magic is that good, or because your personality was super likable? They were rewarded by keeping you on television from week to week with your story and your effervescence.
Well, that's a huge compliment, and I appreciate that. And this is why. When I learned magic, my mentor was Ken Sands, and he said, "Look, it's not about the trick. If the trick is the end-all, be-all, you're going to get a golf clap your whole life. But if you use it as a tool to connect, then you're gonna go as far as you want to go." And so on AGT, that's what it was. It's like, how do I, and I'm not a rock star, so my cards and my speech, that was my guitar and my ballad, right? And so it's personality, it's everything. It's everything. What makes a great entertainer, man? Garth Brooks, are you kidding me? If you're not a Garth Brooks fan, just go see him live, and you're going to understand why people love him. The guy hasn't, one, he's amazing, but he has such a good time, right? So it's all those things coming full circle.
I love watching you on America's Got Talent. And the one thing that I took away, and I've been dying to ask you, is how do you think Le'Veon Bell is going to fit in with the New York Jets?
Oh, that's going to be a trick in itself, right? Yeah. Hopefully he fits in good.
We're going to put you in the other room here to do some magic with the crew on ESPN Ooze. We are happy to have John Dornbos with us here on ESPN Radio.
Now, you're going to do a segment with Stan Van Gundy. We're going to sit around and watch the magic
That's right.
show.
On ESPN Ooze, You're going to get the magic show. You're going to get a private magic show, and Stan and I are going to bore the radio audience with just basketball.
I am guessing Stan would rather be in the room with us watching the magic show.
Well, we can't do that, but thank you for being with us, John. We appreciate it.
I love you guys.
And you will be able to watch this. It should be fun on ESPN Ooze. We're back after this.
Give me more of the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. SportsCenter is conducting live coverage of Kyler Murray's Pro Day, and you'll get the updates from now to 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. And now, your SportsCenter update. The NBA has suspended Serge Ibaka 3 games and Marquise Chris 1 game, each without pay for their role in the fight during the Raptors-Cavaliers game on Monday. And finally, the term Wi-Fi doesn't actually stand for anything. It was made up to sound catchy. There's a false notion out there that the brand name Wi-Fi is short for wireless fidelity. This is a common misnomer. It's just totally made up. Wedding season is upon us, and the easiest way to look fresh for your big day is with thebblacktux.com. The Black Tux has an awesome suit and tuxedo selection that you rent online. To get $20 off your purchase, visit thebblacktux.com and enter the code DAN. For all your latest headlines and information, tune into SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
So we're doing 2 different things here, okay? If you're watching on ESPN Ooze, John Dornbos is doing a magic show quietly. It's a visual thing, so we will not be doing that on the radio, but an evening with John Dornbos this Saturday at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida is what brings him through here. And if you want more tickets or information, he really is an inspiration. His story is amazing, and he's just pulsating positivity. But while that is going on television, Stan Van Gundy, Mike Roy, and I are going to be doing something else with Stan Van Gundy here. So the Warriors, I want to get into what your brother said this week, Stan, because your brother said you got to put on the table the idea of trading LeBron James. He's the only person I've heard say that. And Mike Breen and Mark Jackson, even though they can be very jocular with your brother, they let him have it. Let's hear that sound here on the broadcast the other night.
And look, I think in the offseason, they have to rebuild this roster, right? It could be a trade for an Anthony Davis, or I think they need to explore trading LeBron for getting as much as they can.
What are you doing? Seriously. No, seriously, what are you doing?
No, you got to get on the right timeline. If I could trade him for the Clippers into cap space, which would give me a better chance to get Durant or Kawhi Leonard, would I not do that?
LeBron James is not getting traded. Okay?
You got to put everything on the table.
No, you can't.
All I hear from the players now is it's business. Everything is business. Well, if it's business, then I have to do what's best for my business. I'm not saying you definitely trade him. I'm saying everything on the table to get this team better.
But bottom line, there's no way that's happening.
How do you know?
Breen hammered your brother at the end. Breen never does that.
No, but look, Jeff's point, I hadn't really thought about it, but Jeff's point to me, his overall point is exactly right. I mean, when you're building a team, everything has to be on the table. Now, what you don't know, we know he doesn't have a no trade clause, but you don't know the promises that were made to him. And, they may have very well promised him because he wanted to live in LA. That was a big part of the decision. That, look, we're not going to trade you no matter what happens over the life of the contract. So that may have happened. But if it didn't, why would you take anything out of consideration? Like people would come at the trade deadline and ask questions, is this guy available? Is that guy available? Whether it was on your own team or teams around the league. And my answer was always everyone is available for the right price. These people that say, oh, this guy on our team is untouchable. I mean, that's simply, to make the guy feel good. There's no one that's untouchable. You're telling me that the Lakers would not trade LeBron if it brought him back, say, 2 stars? Of course they would. I mean, there's a price for everybody, and that's, I think, really all Jeff was saying is that should be part of their consideration. What if they can't attract another star to play with LeBron? They can either trade him for a younger star, or they can go back to a rebuilding mode, but highly accelerated because of what they could get. Could they trade him to Boston and get the package that they're talking about for Anthony Davis and get Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and picks? Why wouldn't you consider that if you were LA?
Man, I think that's pretty shocking what you're saying because those players aren't good enough.
Well, no, I'm not saying they should do it. My thing is, though, everything should be open if you're trying to make your team better. And even though he's had one of the most remarkably slow declines, and until this year, no decline in NBA history, LeBron's not going to get better over the next 3 years. And so, everything should be on the table. I don't think Jeff was saying that they should trade him. It's just it should be part of their considerations.
I think there's a general fatigue in sort of ripping LeBron. We can only muster so much energy because of the time with Miami. I think people sort of got tired of it. But and I understand the qualifier of, he missed games. Okay, but he played so many more for the Lakers. And for them to have the same record at this point this season as they did last season, a season in which they didn't have LeBron James, this is absolutely a stain on that record.
Fairly extenuating circumstances made an appearance because, Stan, I do think it's fairly obvious that injury and everything that happened during that injury made that team explode in his face. But they weren't before the injury. They were not what they were after the injury. They've been like the worst team in the league since the injury.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it was the injury and it was the whole Anthony Davis thing. And then it was the other injuries now. I mean, they've had injuries to other people. So it has been not a good second half of the season. Well, really not since Christmas for the Lakers. But let's make sure that we understand that on Christmas Day, they blew out the Warriors and they were tied for 4th in the Western Conference. So there's definitely a case to be made that this team can win. The younger players should get better, but they've got some issues there, major issues in terms of chemistry and trust. And look, this isn't the typical thing. It wasn't the typical thing where there's trade rumors. Players around the league are used to that. Everybody's name comes up and the whole thing. This was an offer. They offered those players. And so you're clearly not committed to those guys. yet you want them to be fully committed to you. That didn't work out this year, and they got a lot of work to do if they want to come back with those guys next year.
What has to be fixed? What has to be fixed next season? Before Anthony Davis can actually get there, what do you imagine is going to end up happening so that this LeBron James cannot be spending this part of his career missing the playoffs?
No, not at all, because, again, I mean, he's closer to the end of his career, certainly, much closer to the end of his career than he is to the beginning, and they need to get him help now. I mean, look, their plan has always been to preserve that cap space, and we're going to go out and get a star to come play with LeBron James. Who's that going to be? Can they get a guy of that caliber? I don't know. If I had to guess right now, I think the guy they get is Jimmy Butler. But that's just a total guess. I have no knowledge of that. I don't think they're going to get Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard. I think for their own reasons, and it's not a knock on LeBron, I don't think those guys want to come and play in LeBron's shadow. I think they want to make their own name as the great players they are. And I don't care how much players team up. The one guy in this league whose shadow you can't get out from under if you play with them is LeBron.
Man, this has got to be so weird for LeBron. He went to the Miami Heat, and they did everything they could to improve that roster around him. Cleveland, give them credit. They were super aggressive in the trade market, even more aggressive than Pat Riley was after acquiring LeBron James to shape that roster. And he goes here to Los Angeles, and they can't survive an injury to Lonzo Ball after he says he's going to turn up the playoff mode. This is a pretty embarrassing situation for the Los Angeles Lakers front office to have that player still on, maybe on the tail end of his prime, but still being a very good player, and to not make any improvement.
Not give him any help.
Well, yeah, I think that, people have criticized their roster decisions and their roster makeup. They wanted to stay on one-year contracts, so they were a little bit limited. But, people are questioning why not Brook Lopez, why not Julius Randle, rather than the guys you had. But let's be honest. I mean, to some degree, LeBron had some say in who came there to play with them, and they went in a little bit of an unconventional direction. I mean, it had always been put shooters around LeBron. Their idea is we're going to put more playmakers around him to take the pressure off of him, and that has not worked out at all offensively. And then, when you're if you want to be in a win-now mode, I'm not sure having all these young guys around is what you want. There needs to be a better mix of veterans. They tried to do that with Rondo and I guess JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson. I mean, that's I don't know if you would call those guys, even though they've been around a while, like veteran winning guys. But when you're trying to do one-year contracts, it's hard. So now they're going to make their play in the offseason, either on the Anthony Davis trade or go out on all these free agents. And how successful they are in that is going to determine the next couple of years in L.A.
Give me more of the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
The entire interview on demand in the Dan Le Batard podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Chris and Billy, they came in here radiant. They came in here post-coital. They were children again after getting to watch a magic show as we went on the radio, as Billy and Chris were partaking with the magician John Darrenbos on ESPN News. Me, Mike, and Stan did the contractually obligated, most boring possible segment on LeBron James. But you guys seemed like you were enjoying yourself.
It was so great, Dan. And believe it or not, at times I can be skeptical, and I'm not the biggest Magic fan, right? Oh, my God. He is so great. Yeah. I don't know how he was doing these things, because I see it on TV, and he's with Ellen, and not that I'm saying that I don't trust Ellen, but I'll see the tricks that he does, and I go, you know what? This show's taped. There's no way that could have happened the way that it happened. Dan, John had Stugotz rip up a card in 4 pieces, right?
Mm-hmm. A specific card that we picked out.
Stugotz ripped it up by himself with his own hands. Those pieces of the card never left his hands. They stayed in his hands, right? Well, I guess they left his hand at some point. But here's the point. He kept one piece of the card that he ripped up. One of the quadrants, 4, right? John did something, boom, 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 bing, bang, boom. Some sort of flick of the wrist thing with his hands. Cards are going this way. Cards are in the air. All of a sudden, he says, hey, Stugotz, I think I left a card in the box of cards. Can you check that for me? Stugotz takes out the box of cards. There's one card left.
Are you kidding me?
And it's only missing one piece.
Amazing.
The piece in his hand. When he ripped it in 4 pieces, somehow he put that card back together. The 3 pieces that he somehow got put back together, went inside that box, right in front of our eyes somehow. I don't know how to explain it other than it's magic. You know another thing he did, Dan? Another quadrant was ripped off of another card.
Yeah.
You know where it ended up being? You'll never guess. Try to guess where it was.
Yeah, guess, Dan. Seriously, guess.
HQ set. Try to guess where it was. We were looking everywhere, up and down, high and low.
We had no idea where the card was.
Where did it go?
Where do you think it went?
Where do you think it went?
Think about it.
Where do you think it went?
You're set. Think about it.
Where do you think it went?
Under the table.
No.
Nope.
In the fruit bowl.
It was underneath Poppy's banana phone.
Me?
How did it get there?
That's insane.
How did it get there? It's impossible. It's not like he could have just snuck it in there while we weren't looking. It was underneath at least 5 fruits by my count. At least 5.
Yep.
Crazy.
I asked him to tell me how he did it. He didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
You don't think he tore off an exact piece? And
No, because
I was
we
there. You
picked
weren't.
the question.
Nope.
Good question,
Nope.
naysayer, skeptic. No. That's not what happened because it matched perfectly. And it's not like it was cut with scissors. The tear lines were perfect. Perfect.
And we randomly picked the card.
Yep. Randomly picked.
Yep.
Random draw.
Yeah, but did you tear it yourself?
Stugotz
I did.
Yeah,
I tore it. Yeah.
What are you getting at here, guy? What's your deal? What's the end game?
At Levitard Show on Twitter and Instagram. What are you getting at here, guy? Put this on the poll, please. Put that in quotes. What are you getting at here, guy? Threat or not a threat?
The only takeaway I have from this that's somewhat negative, he seems to waste a lot of deck of cards. Lots of decks of cards are wasted. I mean, we must have torn through 3 or 4 decks just ripping up cards, which seems like
bad for the environment.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get rid of what, 52 cards? You're going to get rid of 51 cards because you ripped up 1? That seems wasteful to me.
And what I like about him is he's got a great sense of humor. He really, I don't think many magicians do this, but he talks his way through the entire show, and it's very entertaining. Like, he's funny, and he's explaining some of the stuff he's doing while he's doing it. He's great.
The most likable magician I've ever been around.
Oh, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. He's so likable.
Did he tear that first card, Billy?
Yeah, he tore it. What do you mean? What do you mean? Did he tear it? Of course he tore it.
No, I can't master the art of tearing a card the exact
Yeah, but we picked the 7 of diamonds.
No, we picked the 7 of diamonds, and then I tore it. He asked me to tear it right down the middle, and I did it purposely, and he still figured it out. How about that?
Sorcerer.
Yeah, maybe.
At Levitard Show on Twitter and Instagram. Let's update some of the polls, please.
Who is going to be more annoying today? Mike or Stugotz? Congratulations, Michael.
It's just a credit to my player being better.
55% of the audience said Mike.
It's not so much me as it is OBJ.
Should Stugotz work in Jets PR? 84% of the audience said yes.
They turned you with one signing, man. Like, you've been suffering for decade after decade telling us how much you hate them.
Yeah.
They got Le'Veon Bell, and now you're best friends with Adam Gase.
I am. Ray Rado
There's
responded.
no way they pay you enough, though, to work in Jets PR. No way.
You know me well, Stan. Ray Rado responded saying neither he nor they deserve such a fate. Rado.
Friend of the show. We used to have him on every week during the Bond stuff. Remember that?
Yeah. Is John Dorsey a G? I mean,
that's a gangster, Stan, by
John
the way.
Dorsey.
I can't believe 30% of the audience said no. I can't believe that. I mean, you'd figure today, of all days, it'd be at least 95%, right? 70% said yes, for those of you who can't do math like me. Do you love a magic show? I do now. 60% of the audience said yes.
Oh, that's low.
I know, that's crazy, Stan.
Stan was saying it should have been 100%.
They haven't seen
100%.
John, I'm telling you. John was so good. Stan, have you seen John? Stan.
I have not, but we had a guy here for my wife's 50th birthday 30 years ago. And,
whoa.
Well, you know, I just...
Right.
No, I meant yesterday.
Really
I went the wrong way. I went the wrong way.
You messed up. You really
I
messed
did
up.
mess up. I went the wrong way.
You made
Oh,
your
no.
wife
Okay.
80. You
No,
tried
she's
to
not.
protect
She's
your
actually...
wife.
What's amazing is we had him here for a 50th birthday party, and she's 45. So that's what's really bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, this guy did a card trick, and like I have in this one part of my house where he was doing it, my ceiling's like 18 feet high, and he had me pick a card, and then I had to sign it, and he put it back in the deck, and then boom, he does all this shuffling, and he throws all the cards in the air. So 51 of them fall to the floor. and it is still there these years later. The 50-second card is stuck to my ceiling. My card is stuck to the ceiling with my signature on it, 18 feet high. Amazing. Never did figure out how he did it. It was incredible.
You haven't figured out how to get it down from there yet, Stan?
No, with a big ladder, but I ain't going up there.
All right. Let me explain something to you, Stan, okay? Because I don't know how many more errors you could have made there. First of all that money you stole from the Pistons, you hit the audience with first world problems of 18-foot ceiling. Magician for the birthday of your wife, and then you made your wife 80
I did blow
years
that one.
old.
That's the one I'm going to come to regret.
Oh, yeah. You will forever.
We'll talk to you next week, Stan. Thank you for being on with us.
The real magic trick is getting her to accept your apology.
It will never happen. Look at your post-coital, Billy. You're a child.
You just heard the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio. All right, bye.